One of the most pervasive myths in gardening and landscaping is that mulch is good. Considering the number of plants in the average garden and how many gardens there are, this idea has to be the cause of millions, if not billions, of plant deaths. After learning why mulching is a terrible idea, you'll surely throw your mulch into your compost pile instead of your garden. It'll do far more good once it has been turned into humus. Here are several reasons that mulch is the plague for plants. Mulch keeps rainwater and irrigation water out of the root zone. Have you ever noticed that some plants stay dehydrated and wilted even though sprinklers wet their gardens every day or it has rained for days on end? That's because the mulch is blocking the water from getting to their roots. The water is deflected by the layer of interfering material, causing the plants to die of drought no matter how much water is applied to the surface. Don't believe me? Go out to a wilted mulch garden on a rainy day and remove about an inch or a couple of centimeters of mulch from one spot. Then see the dry looking back at you. Or you get the opposite, a garden that can't get dry enough. If you manage to avoid the perma-drought problem, say by installing a soaker hose or even putting the mulch down when the ground is already very wet, you get the opposite problem. Your garden drowns. The mulch blocks so much evaporation that the water just sits there, where it stops oxygen from getting to the roots. Not only that, mold and bacteria love this environment. They take hold and devour any organic matter they can, which means the roots and stems of your stressed, drowning plants. Your plants are thus killed by the 1-2 punch of too much water and infection. It gets worse. If you use an organic mulch like wood chips, termites and carpenter ants will thank you for the free room and board. If your garden's too close to a structure, like your house, they may decide that your house is the best location for their next move. If you use something like straw, termites won't be as interested, but ants will live in that just fine. If you try to dodge that by using inorganic mulch like tire chips or gravel, ants will still love it. What's so bad about ants? They bite. Some also sting. They also love to build nests in mulch. Once they build a nest, they consider the area their territory, and they defend their territory with mass violence. That's right. When you try to work in your garden, they'll come out in their thousands to fight you. Carpenter ants are big enough for their bite to hurt plenty even though they don't sting. If you're far enough south, mulch will attract fire ants. These deceptively tiny things bite and sting, and they swarm. The best way to keep ants from instantly declaring total war on you is to make your garden less inviting for them to build a nest in, which means not providing them with a layer of substrate to hide in. In other words, don't use mulch. Weeds. One of the most common myths is that mulch will keep weeds out. Notice I said myths. It's patently false that mulch will reduce weeds. Weeds will grow in anything. If you have organic mulch, weed seeds will land on the surface and sprout right there. If you have inorganic mulch, weed seeds will fall between the particles and sprout when they reach soil. Then they'll use the mulch layer as a shield against your attempts to get them out. I once had a gig that involved watering and weeding about 5 different garden sections. Some of the sections were mulched while some were not. The mulched sections had just as many weeds as the others. In fact, they had so many that the job took twice as long as I was being paid for. People say weeds won't get well established in mulch. The problem is, it doesn't matter. A poorly established weed is just as ugly as a well established one, so it still has to be pulled out. And if you weed weekly, the difficulty level is the same. My solution to the weed problem? One day I showed up with a huge container of preen and sprinkled it in every garden. Then I only had to water everything. No weeding. From then on, the amount of work took exactly the length of time I was being paid for. These are just the biggest reasons that mulch is awful and you should never allow it anywhere on your property. Not in your garden, not around your trees, not even as your walkways. Just don't use mulch. Period. If you've had a negative experience with mulch, let me know in the comments below. For more provocative gardening content, like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon.